March 4th, 2023. Daily Bread. Passage, Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 6 to verse 21. Key verse 7b. Title, God has remained faithful. You alone are the Lord. You made the heavens, even the highest heavens, and all their starry host, the earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them. You give life to everything, and the multitudes of heaven worship you. You are the Lord God, who chose Abram and brought him out of Ur of the Chaldeans, and named him Abraham. You found his heart faithful to you, and you made a covenant with him to give to his descendants the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Jebusites, and Girgashites. You have kept your promise because you are righteous. You saw the suffering of our ancestors in Egypt. You heard their cry at the Red Sea. You sent signs and wonders against Pharaoh, against all his officials and all the people of his land, for you knew how arrogantly the Egyptians treated them. You made a name for yourself, which remains to this day. You divided the sea before them, so that they pass through it on dry ground. But you hurled their pursuers into the depths, like a stone into mighty waters. By day you led them with a pillar of cloud, and by night with a pillar of fire, to give them light on the way they were to take. You came down on Mount Sinai. You spoke to them from heaven. You gave them regulations and laws that are just and right, and decrees and commands that are good. You made known to them your holy Sabbath, and gave them commands, decrees, and laws through your servant Moses. In their hunger you gave them bread from heaven, and in their thirst you brought them water from the rock. You told them to go in and take possession of the land you had sworn with uplifted hand to give them. But they, our ancestors, became arrogant and stiff-necked, and they did not obey your commands. They refused to listen and failed to remember the miracles you performed among them. They became stiff-necked, and in their rebellion appointed a leader in order to return to their slavery. But you are a forgiving God, gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love. Therefore you did not desert them. Even when they cast for themselves an image of a calf and said, "This is your God who brought you out of Egypt," or when they committed awful blasphemies. Because of your great compassion, you did not abandon them in the wilderness. By day, the pillar of cloud did not fail to guide them on their path, nor the pillar of fire by night to shine on the way they were to take. You gave your good spirit to instruct them. You did not withhold your manna from their mouths, and you gave them water for their thirst. For 40 years you sustained them in the wilderness. They lacked nothing. Their clothes did not wear out, nor did their feet become swollen. Daily Bread Message. The Levites led the worship and prayed to God, who had guided and provided for their ancestors throughout history. God, who created the world and gave life to all the living, chose Abraham to carry out his salvation plan. Together, they established a covenant relationship to bless Abraham's descendants. Since then, God had faithfully led them to grow as his chosen people. He saved them from their agonies of slavery in Egypt. God rescued them when Pharaoh chased them. God guided them day and night. He gave them the law so that they would grow to know right and wrong. He provided them with food and kept them from being hungry and thirsty. He led them to the promised land, which they were to take possession. However, the arrogance and unfaithfulness of the Israelites led them to disobey God and despise the spiritual leader. Yet instead of abandoning them in the wilderness as they deserved, God remained gracious to them, bearing with them for 40 years and providing for all their needs. The Israelites must have been comforted to remember God's provision throughout their history, despite themselves. Prayer. Father, thank you for your guidance and love for this undeserving sinner. I find peace as I remember your unchanging love. One word, God is faithful.